The most important A's hitters this year might be the ones no one is hyping. Let's get into it today on Locked On A's.
You are Locked On A's, your daily podcast on the Athletics, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network in the country. My name is Booney, one name, all passion, lifelong A's fan who has been covering the A's over a year now. Welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your A's, every single day. And honestly, I would not be doing this if it wasn't for you right along with me here today. Today's episode is brought to you in part by FanDuel. The divisional playoffs are here, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Today on Locked On A's, the show opens with a deep dive into Colby Thomas and Carlos Cortes and how each one fits on this A's roster right now. We zoom out to the pitching side and ask the uncomfortable truth, but necessary question. Has Sutter Health Park forced the A's to rethink the kind of arms they target in a hitter-friendly environment? And we close by pulling the curtain back on spring training, laying out the toughest roster and role decisions coming fast as camp opens in a little over a month. But today I am not alone. As a listener of the show, also known as Straight A's on Twitter and YouTube, is riding shotgun with me today as we try to untangle all of these questions. Sam, a lot of people have not talked about Carlos Cortes and Colby Thomas last year. They both had their flashes during the season and showed sparks of who they could be. Do they have a fit on the roster this year? And if so, what is this fit? Are they kind of your quiet guys ready to take off, or are they trying to hold on to a spot?
Yeah, first off, Booney, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk some baseball with you.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming on.
And yeah, these are two guys that I think are really, really interesting. First of all, they're both guys that are easy to root for as fans, right? You got Carlos Cortes, came in as a minor league free agent, was a backup in the minor leagues to start the year, and he just didn't stop hitting, right? He earned his way into the AAA lineup, then earned his way to the big leagues, and then performed really, really well there, right?
Yeah, he tore it up in AAA.
Yeah, and from the fan perspective too, he's a really fun hitter to watch, right? He hits the ball hard. He's a guy that when he came up to the plate last year, I know I felt like something good was going to happen, and more often than not, that did happen, right? And then you got Colby Thomas, right? He's a homegrown guy. You're big on dominate each level of the minor leagues, right? I think Colby Thomas is pretty much the poster child for that, right? Yeah. Every single level of the minor leagues, he's hit, and he's not just hit, but he's torn the cover off the ball, right? So
absolutely,
he got his shot in the big leagues last year, right? And I think we saw the good and the bad with him, right? Mm-hmm. There's some flaws in his game, right? He's going to chase a lot. He's a free swinger, and I think strikeouts are just always going to be there. I don't think that's ever going to be a thing that completely goes away for him. But looking at the two, Cortes performed better than Thomas last year at the big league level, right? I don't think there's any argument there in terms of performance. No. But when you're talking about these two, they're competing for a fourth outfield role, right? In my mind.
Yes, you think so.
And so you start to look at these two guys and you say, okay, what is the segment of at-bats they're going to have, and who are they going to take those at-bats away from, right?
Right.
And when you look at it that way, you start to think, okay, and in those at-bats that they're taking from a starter, are they going to do worse than that guy? Are they going to be kind of neutral, or are they going to perform better than that guy in those specific at-bats, right?
Right.
So I look at the two corner guys, right? I look at Tyler Soderstrom. I think he's playing rain or shine, day or night, left or right.
Yes,
he's
I'm with you there.
Every single day, right?
Yeah.
And as
the other two we don't know.
Yeah. And then you got Butler in right field, right? So Butler last year, he hit 188 against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, he struggled.
He had a 570 OPS. Now, for his career, he's hit better than that. He showed flashes in 24 of hitting left-handed pitchers at a little higher rate than that. But I look at that segment of at-bats. There's about 200 at-bats there in right field that it looks like could be improved upon, right? You can score more runs in those at-bats than what they did last year.
Sure.
Right? So Colby Thomas, right? Well, let's start with Carlos Cortes. Can he hit left-handed pitching? Right?
Carlos Cortes last year in AAA, 267 at-bats, 55 runs, 17 bombs, 77 RBIs. He batted .322 and a 1017 OPS. And it didn't really seem to stop there. At the major league level, he was pretty darn good too at a much smaller sample size, 42 games, 94 at bats, 4 homers, 14 RBIs, 309. 309.
Yeah, he raked. OPS. For sure. And so you look at that. The issue I see with him is he's a corner outfielder backing up 2 left-handed hitting corner outfielders, right?
Yeah. I'm with you there. That's a good call.
There's kind of a little bit of a logjam there. Sure. Is he taking away at-bats against right-handers from Lawrence Butler and Tyler Soderstrom? And if so, is he improving upon their production there? I don't really know if he is, right?
Yeah.
Colby Thomas against left-handed pitchers last year. He had 61 major league at-bats. He hit 6 home runs and had an 894 OPS.
Wow.
In the big leagues, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So the guy basically turns into Brent Rooker when he's just facing left-handed pitchers.
Okay.
So I look at Lawrence Butler. I see at-bats that there can be more production in.
Sure.
And I look at a guy that is really productive in that exact situation, right? And you look at these two. You look at Colby Thomas and Lawrence Butler. If they're platooning out there with Lawrence Butler getting about 450 at-bats and Colby Thomas getting about 200 or so with a few more mixed in here and there.
Okay.
I think there's 30 home runs there. I think there's good defense there. I think there's above average base running there from both of them.
Right.
And I think that's an easy way to improve the lineup on the margins really, really quickly. Now with that, obviously the pushback there is, do the A's want to platoon Lawrence Butler at this point? Right? You just paid him, and this is kind of a situation where, okay, do you really want to say, hey, about 30% of the time you're not going to be in the lineup, right? So a couple points to that. With Lawrence Butler, I don't think it has to be absolute. He's a streaky hitter, right? And he gets on these hot streaks. And if that's the case, if he's on one of his hot streaks, like, don't take him out of the lineup against lefties, right? You can slide him over to center and sit Denzel Clark down for a game. There's ways you can kind of manipulate that to still get him at-bats against lefties, right?
Right.
And then on top of that too, like, if he's productive on the strong side of the platoon, that's worth the contract he has, right? Like, you look at guys like Kerry Carpenter.
I'm with you. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. You look at guys like Kerry Carpenter for the Tigers.
Yeah.
He gets 3rd or 4th in a playoff lineup, and he's really productive.
Yeah.
And if he hit free agency right now, I'm very confident he would get a bigger contract than what Lawrence Butler currently has on his extension.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you.
So those are kind of my thoughts there. And I also don't think it means Carlos Cortes isn't on the roster. Like, I think you can fit
he's still there. I'm just thinking, I mean, who would be another guy that's not on who would be outside looking in? I mean, the only guy I'm really thinking is like maybe a Junior Perez in AAA, who's in AAA Vegas, who tore it up.
Yeah.
I really can't think of anybody else. Before it was, okay, JJ Bleday was always in that mix. Now he's gone. Who is that next guy? Because you're going to have 2 outfielders. You know, you have 35. And, you know, I'm pretty sure in the infield it's going to be Harris and Hernandez as far as the front runners. I don't see anybody. Maybe a Max Schumann instead of one of that.
And he has some versatility in being able to bounce out to the outfield as well.
Yep, absolutely. That's something there. And then behind the plate, you obviously have Austin Wynns.
Yeah.
So right there, that kind of takes care of the 13 guys on the hitting side of things. The NFL divisional playoffs are here, and FanDuel cranks things up to playoff volume. Saturday, you have got Buffalo at Denver and San Francisco at Seattle. Sunday, Houston at New England, LA in Chicago. Every single playoff game day, FanDuel drops a profit boost pack right into your account. You open the app, grab the boost, and apply them to the bets you already like. For example, I'm going with Josh Allen over 1.5 touchdown passes and Bo Nix over 1.5 touchdown passes. You put those together today, and it pays about 4 times your bet. Add a profit boost. Now you're talking 6 times, maybe 7 times your money. Same picks, just more juice. That's the beauty of the boost. So head to FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and make sure you grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. Thank you for making Locked On A's your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you have not already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. You will get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On A's compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go to lockedona's.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Sutter Health Park, and during this off season, obviously it's been quiet, not a whole lot going on. I mean,
yeah,
Jeff McNeil and I think Mark Leiter is basically your major moves.
That's all we got.
And Mark Leiter was signed, which I felt was a pretty darn good contract. But
Agreed.
Mark Leiter is also a sinker ball splitter type pitcher. It reminds me of last year's the same thing. They drafted Noah Murdoch in the Rule 5 draft.
Yeah, good call.
He made the opening day roster because he had a sinker. And he was quite effective to start the year. It couldn't last. But what do you think? Do you think that's the A's and what they're doing right now? Or are they just having a hard time getting anybody to come pitch at Sutter Health Park?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's from the start where they're struggling. It's just tough to get guys to pitch in a minor league ballpark. It's as simple as that. But yeah, it's interesting seeing the A's navigate this. For my whole lifetime, the A's have done an incredible job at getting like these guys that are kind of soft tossing fly ball type pitchers.
Sure.
They're really number 4 or 5 type starters. And they would come to the Coliseum and they would pitch like 2 or 3 starters, right? You have like Mike Fires, Tommy Malone,
Fires is a good call. Yeah, Malone.
Like even like further back, like Dallas Braden, guys like that. And those are just the guys that they've always kind of targeted. And those are also the guys now that just don't work in Sutter Health Park, right? They just don't work.
Yeah.
So then you kind of look at like, okay, what are the A's identifying with the guys they have brought in since they've been at Sutter Health Park? And it's interesting because I would think you're just going to go after sinker ballers, right? And maybe they're kind of moving in that direction because Mark Leiter Jr., that's his thing, right? Getting sinker ball split, getting the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. You look at guys like Jeffrey Springs and Severino and Jacob Lopez. Like none of them are extreme like ground ball guys. Like if anything, Springs and Lopez
more fly ball pitchers
are fly ball guys. And I think the A's probably thought Springs was going to miss more bats when they brought him in.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a factor. But what these guys tend to have in common is they're good at limiting hard contact, right?
And they're also they're taking up innings too. That's the big
which
thing.
Is the most important thing.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I mean? They're gobbling innings up.
Yeah, and it's like you look at the A's right now, it's like if they get 2 more guys that can throw 130, 140 major league average innings, that puts them like borderline wild card right there. That puts them in the playoff hunt really, really quickly if they're not already, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Like they've gotten kind of these innings eaters that limit hard contact, but they haven't necessarily strayed away from fly balls, which is something I've been curious about because just intuitively I'm like, okay, you'd get ground ball guys, right? That's what you would get in a park like this.
Right.
But it's just interesting to see that they haven't done that so far. So I'm curious to see, sounds like they're really working hard to add a starting pitcher, right? I'm curious to see kind of the profile that they're really targeting, right? And that can be skewed, right? Because they might just get a guy that's willing to pitch in Sutter Health and it might not be their ideal fit and all of that. But it's just interesting to see the A's navigate from going from all these fly ball pitchers. You even saw it last year a little bit with like Joey Estes, Mitch Spence, guys that had some success in the Coliseum. Now they're going to a smaller ballpark and it just doesn't work. So it's just interesting to see the A's kind of switch see kind of them navigate this switch from a pitcher's park to a hitter's park.
No, I hear you. I don't know if they're going to end up getting another starting pitcher. I think they're trying super hard. I just think everything right now is an overpay for him, and just kind of taking what David Force said in his when they signed Soderstrom was like, hey, pitchers are expensive. We're not going to overpay. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. And I think at the end of the day, are you going to sign? I'm throwing a name out, like for example, a Patrick Corbin, and tell me he's gonna, and we're gonna pay him. Let's say the A's are gonna pay him $4 or $5 million on a 1-year deal, whatever it is. And you're telling me he's better than JT Ginn? I don't know who I'd write you. So I think that's the kind of the predicament the A's are in right now.
Yeah, and I mean, I would throw Jack Perkins in there too. Like his stuff is really good.
Really good.
Really good. It's what surprised me too. He has a good changeup too that kind of negates lefties a little bit. If he commands a little better, right? Just a little better. But one thing too that the A's have done in the last couple of years is you're starting to see these guys come up to the big leagues with like real stuff, right? For a while, it was a lot of, and I don't want to knock this guy, but like it was like Joey Estes, Mitch Spence, where they can get major league hitters out. But they're not going to overpower guys, right?
No.
But you look at JT Ginn throwing some mid-90s sinker. You got Jack Perkins with good stuff. Luis Morales, like he had that game against the Tigers, and I was like, this guy could be a frontline guy, right? He's got a lot of hurdles to clear before he becomes that, I think, in my opinion. But you're starting to see in the minor leagues, like all these guys come up to the big leagues with real stuff. Real stuff, and not Joe Boyle type real stuff where it's the stuff's real, but the command's not, right? And, you got this new wave coming up with Gage Jump, guys like that. So I do think the long-term picture for the pitching staff looks significantly better than this time last year.
Yeah, no, 1,000% for sure. I mean, last year we're thinking JP Sears was going to be that rock-solid number 3 guy, right?
Right.
Coming off of 2024.
Yeah, Beto had us all fooled too.
But oh my God, Bedeau I thought was going to be something else. And he was the 4 guy. It's like, okay, you're ready to go for the 4 guy. And then the 5th guy is supposed to be a competition between Mitch Spence and Joey Estes, because you remember the complete game Joey Estes hasn't had in 2024. And you're thinking, oh man, this guy's, has something. So that was our pitching staff when you look back, and you're changing it now to obviously real young prospects that have some great stuff. And, we're going to see what happens, but it's definitely exciting. And I don't see Braden. That's another one I'm interested in seeing, the kid that came over from San Diego and what he can. I'm glad the A's protected him. Jeez, they did that right. But, so I don't see any more moves for pitching unless it keeps it's between be a trade. I saw one of these rumors on like those Bleacher Report or kind of see online.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. Colby Thomas and another prospect, not like a high-end prospect, but a good solid prospect for Mitch Keller. Okay. Colby Thomas and again, I wish I remember the other ones.
Yeah. I think, Mitch Keller's exactly that like sinker ball innings eater type. I think his contract is something like 3 years, $75 million. So
it's not some terrible.
Cost to him. But I would be all for that. Honestly, I would be for that.
Yeah. Like I said, it was, I know Colby Thomas was in it, and another one are like solid prospects, nothing crazy.
Yeah. And again, I mean, if you're not mortgaging the farm and you can get a starting pitcher, that could be interesting. The other thing too, the Red Sox have about 45 starting pitchers now, signing Ranger Suarez today. There's some guys there that wondering if the A's would try to get their hands on in some way.
You know who I like a lot is Harrison from the Giants that went
over. Oh, yeah, Kyle Harrison.
Kyle Harrison. I still think he's going to be – I still think there's something with him, man. I like him a lot. Just, if they had an opportunity to get him, I don't know. I'm just kind of talking.
No, for sure. Patrick Sandoval, too. He's coming off injury, but he was good for the Angels a few years ago. He's with the Red Sox now.
Sam, let's talk decisions, spring training. What are the biggest competitions you see? Biggest competitions going into spring training? What are you interested in seeing? What do you got going on as far as your 26-man roster? Who barely makes it? Who gets edged out?
Yeah, so I think obviously the pitching thing is going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah.
Luis Medina, who you brought up earlier, is really interesting because you would think shortening that guy up and having him pitch in a 1-inning role, that guy could throw 100. I mean, this is all dependent on how he's recovered from Tommy John.
That's everything.
He could be a really interesting bullpen option, right? Like he profiles there. He's out of options, and he's one of these arms where it's like if you let him go, there's probably going to be some teams that are going to want to snatch him up and see what they can do. So I think I have him just on the roster and out of the bullpen. One other interesting thing it's kind of something the A's have done. There are about 10 minor league free agents that they've signed, like bullpen minor league free agents that have big league experience. And the A's, between guys that have been DFA'd and minor league free agents, they've done well with that group over the last couple of years, right? You got Otañez and Ferguson a couple years ago, and then DFA guys. You got Michael Kelly, you've got Elvis Alvarado, you've got Justin Sterner. So it wouldn't surprise me if one or two of those guys made some noise in spring training. Yeah, I mean, I think the easy one there is I don't think both Ginn and Perkins make the roster. I think they're going to want to keep one of those guys starting in AAA.
Okay.
And be the guy that moves into the rotation when injuries happen, right?
Okay.
That kind of segues into the next point. If those 13 guys are healthy, there's going to be very little room, right? I mean, I think it's super rare that 13 pitchers make it through spring training without nagging injuries. So I do think there's going to be spots that open up. There could be guys that don't perform and stuff like that. And I don't put too much weight on spring training, but if there's guys that really implode, then that can be a problem. So I think that's kind of the answer there. I also don't know if you have to carry two lefties. I think that would be preferable, right? I think that would be preferable. But Mark Leiter Jr. is a guy with reverse splits. So he gets lefties out at a really high rate. And Hogan Harris, I think I'm pretty confident in as a lefty there. So I don't think you have to carry two lefties. Point is, if a guy forces his way on the roster, I think there can be room for him. I'm not going to map out like this is exactly how this is who he's going to beat out, but there's routes for a guy to make the roster. So my point is just more so that it wouldn't surprise me to see one of these guys, because if you look into their numbers, there's several of them where it's like this guy's performed really, really well in the minor leagues recently. So point is, I'm just saying, keep our eyes open for some of those guys, because there's always one that pops during spring training that we're not expecting. And the A's have really stockpiled those guys.
Is Zach Geloff going to make a run at things? And what's your take? There's another guy I'm rooting for.
Exactly.
There's another guy I'm rooting for. I mean, you know what's crazy about it, though? Here's the thing with me and Geloff. When Geloff came up, obviously he tore it up in the second half of 2023. I didn't like him in 2024. I couldn't. He was just like I just was not a Zach Geloff fan. And then in 2025, I was like, hey, he's not, because it took a while he was struggling at the start of spring training. He struggled a little bit in Vegas and felt like he was given the opportunity to come up. I wasn't a fan of him coming up. So, but now all of a sudden I'm finding myself really rooting for him and wanting him to be up there. It's the craziest thing.
There's a part of me that's never going to give up on Zach Geloff. Yeah. Having said that, like I don't really see a spot for him with Jeff McNeil at second base. If Zach Geloff shows up and has corrected some of the holes that have existed for a year and a half, 2 years, then maybe there's a way where McNeil kind of shifts into a utility role where he still plays every day, something like that. But man, Geloff is a guy. He's got elite speed, elite power, plays a well above average defense. He's got everything except that hit tool that is the separator. And so right now, I think it would be better to start him in AAA. I just want him to get at bats every day and see if
right? That's a good call.
Like I just think that's the best situation for him and the best situation for the organization.
You think on the hitting side of things, it's really going to be a competition for one spot at the end of the day between Brett Harris, Max Schumann, and Daryl Hernandez. 3 for 2.
Yeah, and I think there's even a way if they want to carry another reliever, it could be 3 of those guys for one spot, honestly. And yeah,
14 and 12.
Yeah, I think Hernandez is the obvious like utility guy. But Max Schumann it would not shock me if Max Schumann made the team, made the roster either. Yeah. He's just an above average defender with positional versatility. I think Hernandez has more upside with the bat, and that's definitely something to look at. And then Brett Harris, there's a role for him, especially one, he might win the third base job. I don't expect that. I think it's going to be Muncy.
Either, yeah.
But if he doesn't and Muncy is starting at third base, there's probably going to be a lot of games early in the year where you're going to want a defensive replacement at third base for Muncy late in games.
Yeah, that's a good call too. And Harris can play all 3 of the positions. But
so yeah, it's interesting. I do think there's none of those guys I'm tied to having on the MLB roster. But they all do bring some level of upside to the roster, in my opinion. It's just a matter of what the best fit is at the end of spring training.
As you see the roster set right now, what's your predictions for wins? Where do you think the A's stand? How do you think they will compete next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhere in the mid 80s is probably where I see them. If their pitching stays healthy, if one of these prospects pops, then you can see a way where they make a run, right? It wouldn't surprise me too if they did add a starting pitcher like really close to spring training. Probably more of an innings eater type guy than a real difference maker, but at the same time, an innings eater kind of is a difference maker for the A's at this point. I kind of see a mid 80s, but really, really fun mid 80s with Nick Kurtz leaving the yard left and right and Jacob Wilson hitting 330.
Who's your big surprise this year for the A's? Who's going to have the type of season no one sees coming?
So I think A's fans will see this coming to some degree, but the baseball world, I mean, we talked about him the other day. I think Jacob Lopez. He reminds me a lot of Sean Manaea when Sean Manaea.
I saw that comparison. That was a good call. That was a good call.
And he's just a guy like he misses bats and gets elite extension. Ball gets on guys really, really quickly. And the thing is, he's always been good. He was a late draft pick out of a junior college down here in Southern California. College of the Canyons.
I'm sorry?
Yes. College of the Canyons.
College of the Canyons, thank you.
But if you look, he's always been good. If he was a second-round pick, he would have been a top prospect moving up through the ladder.
Yeah.
So he's always been good. And you look at last year, you take out that last game where he got injured, and I think you can
Seattle. That was in Seattle. I'm with you.
He had like a 3.30 ERA coming into that with well over a strikeout per 9.
Ridiculous.
He had some dominant stretches. Like, I'm really excited to see what he can do over a full season. I think the Jeffrey Springs trade is going to be known as the Jacob Lopez trade.
I would agree with you. He had 3 starts. He had 26 scoreless innings in a row. I mean, where he struck out like 30 in those 26 innings.
And dominant too. Yeah. Dominant outings.
Oh my God, you're right, man. He was. When you think about how good the A's can be and what their ceiling is, I'm telling you, the first name that pops into my head is Jacob Lopez, because he's guy that you're kind of like, this is why we can be good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's interesting. Like, yeah, I'm with you. It should be interesting, man. Hey, Sam, thank you so much for cruising by, brother. Let's do it again soon, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.